You should not be conscious right now. This may sound strange, but it's true. Everything you are is made of atoms. Particles with no intention, no purpose, no form of experience. For billions of years, these same particles drifted through the universe in complete silence, perceiving nothing, feeling nothing, not knowing they even existed. And yet, somehow, they organized themselves to become you, a being that thinks, that feels, that perceives its own existence. So a question emerges that is impossible to ignore. How did unconscious matter wake up? In this video, you are going to explore one of the deepest mysteries of existence. Not just how consciousness emerged, but why it emerged in you. And when this investigation stops being just an idea and begins to be directly perceived, something changes. You stop seeing yourself as an accident, and you begin to sense that something much deeper is unfolding behind your existence. There is a fact about you that is so obvious it is almost never questioned. You are conscious right now. There is an experience happening within you at this exact moment. You perceive, you feel, you interpret, you react. There is something here observing every thought, every sensation, every word you are reading. But when you look at what your body is made of, something doesn't make sense. You are made of atoms. The same atoms that exist in a rock, in a piece of metal, in a distant star. Atoms that have no intention, no perception, no inner experience of any kind. They simply exist. They follow physical laws, respond to forces, and organize into structures. And yet, when these same atoms organize themselves in an extremely specific way, something impossible happens. Experience appears. Consciousness appears. The ability to perceive existence itself appears. And this is not just strange. It is a deep paradox that challenges everything we think we understand about reality. If you truly pause to feel this, not just as an idea but as a direct perception, something begins to feel uncomfortable. Because we are not talking about a distant phenomenon in the universe. We are not talking about an abstract theory. We are talking about you. About your experience right now, about the fact that there is a point of view happening inside something that, in theory, should not be capable of generating any point of view at all. Science can explain with impressive precision how atoms organize, how they form molecules, how they create cells, how they build complex biological systems like the brain, but there is a point where all of these explanations simply stop. No equation, no theory, no model has been able to cross the boundary between matter and experience, because no matter how detailed the physical explanation is, it never answers the central question. Why is anything being felt? And the deeper you look into this, the stranger everything becomes, because it is not just that consciousness is difficult to explain, it is that it seems completely out of place, as if it were an error in the system, as if something had emerged that does not belong to the same category as what produced it. Matter should simply be matter. Particles should simply interact, but somehow, this blind process, with no intention, no direction, no form of awareness, crossed an invisible line, and at some point, the universe stopped being just a set of physical events and became something that can be experienced, something that can be felt from within. And this is not just a curious detail, it completely changes how we understand what reality is. And it is exactly at this point that the question begins to gain strength within you, almost impossible to ignore. Because no matter how many external explanations exist, one fact remains: you are conscious. And this needs to be understood not as theory, but as direct reality. Because if atoms are completely unconscious, if they have no form of experience, then something doesn't add up. Something doesn't fit. Something is missing from this story. And when you see this clearly, the question stops being merely intellectual and becomes deeply existential. Because if matter is completely unconscious, how can consciousness exist? And more importantly, why does it exist in you? For a long time, we have been taught to see the universe as a great machine, an impersonal system governed by physical laws, where everything can be explained in terms of matter and energy in motion. Within this view, there is no intention, no purpose, no experience, only processes unfolding. And consciousness, in this model, would be nothing more than a byproduct of complexity, something that arises automatically when matter organizes itself in a sufficiently advanced way, especially in the human brain. It sounds like an elegant, logical, satisfying explanation, But there is a silent problem in this idea. It perfectly describes how things function, but it does not explain why they are experienced. We can map the brain with extreme precision. We can observe neurons fire in, record electrical patterns, track communication between different regions of the brain. We can even predict certain decisions before a person becomes consciously aware of making them. All of this reveals an astonishing level of organization. But even with all of this technology, there is something that remains completely unexplained. None of these measurements tell us why there is someone experiencing all of it. None of them explain why there is a point of view and in a dimension of experience. It is as if we are perfectly observing the functioning of a machine without ever being able to explain why there is someone inside it. And perhaps the mistake is not in science itself, but in the way we interpret what it shows us. Because we are trying to explain consciousness as if it were just another physical phenomenon, when perhaps it does not belong to the same category as matter at all. Perhaps consciousness is not something that arises within the universe, but something that has always been present in some way. Because trying to explain conscious experience purely through particles is like trying to understand light by observing only the shadows it casts. And when this possibility begins to be seriously considered, the entire direction of the investigation changes. Because if consciousness does not arise from matter, then something much stranger is happening. And this leads us to an even deeper question. At what moment did the universe stop merely existing and begin to perceive its own existence? And this moment in the history of the universe is more mysterious than any other. It is not the birth of stars, not the formation of galaxies, not the initial explosion that gave rise to time and space. It is the moment when something began to perceive all of this. The moment when matter stopped simply existing and began to be experienced. This moment is not just lost in the past as a distant event. It is happening now, in this exact instant, through you, because everything that exists in the universe, everything that has ever happened, everything that will ever happen only gains meaning when it is perceived. And somehow you are at this point where the universe stopped being just a process and became experience. Your body is made of ancient matter, atoms that were born inside stars, that traveled through space for billions of years, that reorganized countless times until reaching the form you call me. But something happened along the way, because these same atoms, which were once completely silent, are now perceiving. They are thinking, they are questioning their own existence. They are looking at the sky, trying to understand where they came from. And this is not just curious, it is deeply inexplicable within a purely material view. Because somehow the universe did not just create structures, it created the ability to observe those structures. It created points of consciousness capable of reflecting on itself. And when you look at this deeply, something begins to change in how you see yourself. Because you stop being just an isolated individual living in an external universe, and you begin to sense that perhaps you are an expression of that very universe, looking at itself through a specific perspective. As if reality had fragmented into points of perception just so it could experience itself, and this completely changes the meaning of existence. Because perhaps you are not just living inside the universe, perhaps the universe is becoming conscious through you. But this leads us to an even deeper question. If the universe is observing itself through you, then what exactly are you? And this question may seem abstract at first, but when you allow it to deepen, it begins to touch something very direct within you, because it no longer makes sense to see yourself as just a physical body existing inside an external universe. If what you are allows the universe to be perceived, then perhaps you are not inside reality. Perhaps you are at the point where reality becomes experience. This is not just a change of idea, it is a change of position. Because for the first time, you stop seeing yourself as something separate from the whole and begin to realize that you are directly involved in the very existence of what is being perceived. And the longer you remain with this perception, the more something begins to reorganize internally. Because what once seemed purely physical begins to reveal a dimension that cannot be reduced to the physical. There is something in you that perceives the body, perceives thoughts, perceives the world around you, and this something has no form. No weight, cannot be located in the same way the body can. And yet, it is the only thing that makes any experience possible. Without it, there would be no perception, no world, not even the idea of existence. And this leads to a silent but radical inversion. Perhaps consciousness is not inside the universe. Perhaps the universe is appearing inside consciousness. And if this possibility is taken all the way to its end, then the way you understand yourself changes completely, because you stop being matter trying to understand consciousness and become consciousness trying to understand itself. You stop being a random event inside a directionless universe and become part of a much deeper process of reality perceiving itself. And this is not something you need to believe. It is something that can be directly seen, because in the end, everything converges to a single unavoidable fact. There is something in you that is conscious right now, and perhaps this is the greatest mystery of all. Not because it is distant, but because it has always been right here. Perhaps atoms never became conscious. Perhaps consciousness was always present, and atoms simply organized themselves to express it. And if that is true, then you are not matter trying to understand consciousness. You are consciousness itself trying to understand itself. Now tell me in the comments, do you believe consciousness emerged from matter, or that matter emerged within consciousness? And if you want to continue exploring these mysteries about consciousness and reality, subscribe to the channel, because in the next video, we are going to go even deeper. If consciousness does not depend on matter, what happens when the body stops existing? See you in the next video.